Okay, so today we're going to talk about router safety. We'll be talking about router use when the router is in the table router, as opposed to the handheld router. We will cover that at a later time. Okay? So what we mostly use the router for is for edge forming. Okay, we have a number of different bits in here, and most of the time it's for these are edge forming. Okay, meaning you can give, the edge of a top or a face or something a different profile, like a rounded over profile or a curvy profile, anything. There are other types of bits that we have, bits that form glue joints, things like that. We'll cover that here in a little bit. So there's always, kids kind of seem to have a hard time picking out, what type of edge profile they want. So this right here, this is an edge profile bit, okay? This is a guide bearing. That's what, it guides the board and controls the depth, okay? And so here, right here, this shape right here, that is what it will do to the edge of a board, okay? Like so. Now, so this bit has a guide bearing, okay? This bit does not, okay? This is a glue joint bit, okay? So we've got the table, we've got the fence, here's the router itself. This bit in particular, this one has a guide bearing. I don't need to use the fence if I have a guide bearing, okay? I just want to keep the fence close, but behind the bit, okay? And in normal conditions, this would be hooked up to dust collection to get the mess away from us, okay? And so this bit is, as I'm looking down at the top of it, it's always spinning counterclockwise, spinning this direction. I'm always feeding from right to left as I'm looking at the front of the table. I'm feeding the board against the rotation of the bit, okay? If I was to feed it this way, which is the bit's turning this way, if I was to feed the board from left to right with the rotation of the bit, it would try to pull the board through the cut, and that's not what you want. You want to control the board. You want to push against the rotation of the bit. That way you are controlling the board, okay? We've got a live bit here spinning at a high rate of speed. It's not very well guarded under best circumstances. You need to keep your fingers 2 inches away. It's pretty simple to be able to send this through and work your hands. You should never have those fingers within 2 inches. You always want to make sure your table is clear of debris. You don't want to put extra things on the table, okay, that could vibrate into the bit, okay? And there is a way we want to do this. So what I don't, on this end grain, I don't want to run the bit like towards the corner really fast. I could tear that out. Sometimes I'll come back and I'll do just around the corner a little bit backwards, and that prevents tear out, and I'm going to show you that, okay? So anytime, now, let me back up. So if I was to use this bit that has no guide bearing, okay, then I would want to use the fence in conjunction with the bit. If I were to do that, then I would need to use a straight edge, put a straight edge on that fence, and adjust this fence so it's proper depth for the cut I want to make in relationship to the bit, okay? And then walk everything down, okay? And yes, you can use push sticks on the router, if you want to. It helps to get your hands up away from the operation if you have to do small pieces, okay? Anytime we need to get in here and make adjustments to the router, we want to disconnect power, okay? And this router, it's plugged into this switch on the table. I'm just unplugging it from the switch, disconnected now, it cannot turn on, okay? I'm going to move this fence back, and the router plate simply lifts out of here, okay? So, to adjust this particular router, I would loosen the lock collar right here. This turns, it has like a threaded base on this router. So when I turn it counterclockwise, it raises the bit. When I turn it clockwise, it lowers the bit, okay? But I'm gonna set this about where I had it. Okay, to make the type of cut I want. We're gonna go right there. We're gonna lock that down. Okay, now, if I were to need to change the bit, and this is gonna be hard to see, but I have these two flat silver wrenches, and their sole purpose is to fit this router, okay? They're the same. I would hold the nut on the shaft with one of the wrenches, okay? Trying to get this so you can see it. And then I would have to loosen this nut right here, okay, to take that bit out, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, take that out so you can see it. Okay, so now what I've got is a bit in its collet, okay? I want the bit, when I put the bit in the collet, wow, I want it to be flush on the back side. So I don't want to just barely stick the bit in there. That is not how I adjust the depth of cut. The bit gets put in at a minimum, so the back side of the collet, okay? That gets threaded into the router, and you can't just hand tighten this. This thing is spinning pretty fast. You don't want anything loose that could come loose and fly across the shop, okay? So I hold the one, I tighten the other. That's good and snug. Okay, this all goes back together. You know what, I'm gonna reset, since I took that out, put it back in. Probably not in the same place. I'm gonna reset that depth. I'm just kind of using this board as a kind of a straight edge to set that, okay? And I'm gonna lock that down right there, okay? So this bit has a guide bearing. We don't necessarily need the fence, but we're gonna have it close for the purpose of dust collection, just like that, okay? I'm gonna connect power. You don't wanna, if you feed this too slow, you could burn the wood. If you feed it too fast, you could make a chippy cut or not a very thorough cut. So you just kind of want just kind of a medium feed rate on this, okay? Everything's hooked up. It's gonna get a little bit loud, so I'm gonna start it up, and I'm just gonna route around the four sides on this face of the board, okay? You're gonna watch how I do these corners so I don't chip them out. I go backwards just a little bit around that corner. Okay? Keep my fingers 2 inches away, keep it flat on the table. Okay. I'll show you what we've got here. So you can see that. Nice, nice rounded off profile all the way around. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. Clean it up when you're done.